On this AVNation special, we sit down with Gladys, Marroquin, Narin, Nara, and Jess, Rhoades, part of SCN's The 9 for 2021. All that and more next on this AVNation special.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is an AVNation special, SCN The 9 2021, Part 1. This is an AVNation special, taking a look at SCN's The 9, the annual look at the up-and-coming young people in the AV industry. My name is Tim Albright, your host. This is one of my favorite episodes that SCN does, and then we get to partner with them. 9 young people. Our buddy Megan Dutta takes a look at 9 young up-and-coming professionals in the industry. We're going to break this up amongst 2 or 3 different interviews, simply because interviewing 9 people seems cumbersome and a little bit much. So we're going to break this up and kind of bring them together. First and foremost, a young lady that I've had on AV Week a number of times. Her name is Gladys Marroquin, and she is from Newcomb and Boyd out of Atlanta. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey, how's it going, Tim? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, thank you. Also, Jess, Rhoades, a young lady that I met through a buddy of mine, Luke Jordan, down in Texas Way. She's from AVISPL. Welcome, ma'am.
Hey, y'all.
And last but not least, a guy that I've just spent an awful lot of time working, at least in the background, Narin Nara. You know his work from Avixa. He's the digital producer there over at Avixa. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Tim Albright. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's kind of go around the horn here, and some of this will be conversational, but really let's kind of get a sense of where each of you are. And Gladys, I want to start with you. You're a consultant. Your vertical is typically education, but you do some, in other words, in other areas as well. How did you get involved, and how did you land in the industry?
Sure. So let's take it back to my college days, which I know is a surprise for most people. They kind of just like fall into it later on in life. But what ended up happening with my origin story, if you will, I was a freshman at the University of Florida. And at the time, I was, kind of trying to skimp off some money, right? I was trying to just help pay for college, because I was also on a scholarship, but for the summer classes, they don't pay for it. I'm probably going into too much detail, but I needed a job. And I saw a couple kids with these tech crew shirts, and I thought, whoa, that's really cool, because I was kind of a techie already, but not so much AV. I mean, I didn't even know what AV was at the time. So I ended up applying, but I thought I was applying for something different, right? Because I just saw tech crew, and I just kind of made some assumptions I probably shouldn't have. But so I applied for the job. I got the job. So I started out as a little humble stagehand, of course, how everybody probably starts. And I just got more interested in running shows and kind of helping the artists and all that. So I ended up learning more about how to, use consoles and kind of more of the AV elementals, if you will. And I ended up being a crew chief, which is kind of like a step up from just crew stuff. And then I got so involved that I ended up leading the crew department, if you will, if that kind of makes sense. And from there, I was there for 4 years, basically, from my freshman year to my senior year, just kind of getting as involved as possible. Sometimes I worked full-time working and also as a full-time student too. So it was kind of hard to juggle, but half of it was fun. Obviously, the other half was work, but I really enjoyed what I was doing. I mean, it was fun. It was good socializing with people, too, because this was mostly student-run at the time. And I'm pretty sure it is now today, too. But what ended up happening is one of my colleagues who ended up graduating maybe a year or two ahead of me was saying, hey, Waveguide is hiring this for this role. They're looking for, kind of like a younger crowd or younger applicants. So I said, hey, yeah, why not? So I applied, and Long, the homie, he put in a good word for me, thank God. And so I ended up joining the Waveguide team, doing commissioning, and the technical role was field agent, I think, at the time, but it changed a few times. And then from there, I ended up going into the design world. Thank you to Harry Allison. I do appreciate him, because he kind of was like, oh, I kind of want this person to be on my team. So from there, I learned more of the design aspect, because as a commissioning agent, you're more at the end of the phase where things are already being installed and you're kind of testing it, just making sure that the integrators are kind of, like finalizing the product so that we're ready for day one. So it's kind of stressful, but also you get to see, how they're configuring everything, and you help them along the way, which was nice, and, kind of exposed me to that phase of the project. And then in design, it was way more design heavy. So I was on Revit, CAD. I also helped with scheduling too as well. And from there, I ended up joining Nuke & Boyd as a full-on AV consultant, led by Britton Gates, who is wonderful as well. And yeah, I mean, I've been there for about a year and some months, right in the middle of COVID, or right before COVID, I should say. Yeah. I was hired, so it was, pretty good for a while. And then COVID kind of happened, so I haven't been in the office for a while, but I have been able to learn a lot. Just in the year and some months, I feel like just learning as much as I could on the more of like the project management, and just kind of getting more deep and heavy into design and all of what entails as far as coordination and answering RFIs, talking to manufacturers, XYZ. So that's kind of all of it. We're here today.
Well, I want to touch on something you said real quickly. Is how, what was the experience like in the last year? Coming on someplace new, and learning and kind of getting yourself acclimated during COVID, right? I mean, all of us have had new jobs and new positions, and typically those, you've got onboarding, you meet the folks, you find out where the lunchroom is, and this, that, and the other. There's that camaraderie, right? There's that in-person camaraderie. What was that experience like this past year when we didn't have that?
Yeah, it's been a little difficult, not gonna lie, but I think our team has done a pretty good job about trying to get that under control, I guess. I mean, well, first off, our AV team the whole department is really small, and we have weekly meetings, scrum meetings, they're called. So we see each other once a week at least. But yeah, I won't lie, before COVID, going into the office and being able to interact with my coworkers, just like walk to their little cube, that was, way better, obviously, than now. Now it's kind of, I mean, yeah, it's been difficult, and it's almost like, I guess, drinking from a fire hose almost. You just kind of try your best to land running, right? I mean, it's difficult, but I think we've made it work. So that's the good part, at least.
Very cool. Jess, you work for the biggest AV integrator in the world, officially, from SCN's top 50.
Yes.
So, talk for a second about your journey as well. How did Jess end up not just in AV ISPL, but in AV in general?
Well, so like Gladys, I didn't really know what AV was before coming to this industry. Ever since I was 14, I was always working retail and direct care jobs, and just always busy, running. I remember at one point having 5 jobs at a time, like with multiple nannying, housekeeping, plus a coffee shop. I would go to my coffee shop job and drop one of my family of kids with my grandma and pick them up after. It was, but I mean, I guess I had this, this feeling of just like exhaustion after all of these jobs. And I knew that, I was really good at organization, and, I was really detail oriented and just really good at planning. So office job was like this pie in the sky thing for me when I got out of college. I was feeling pretty directionless. So I had first just grabbed the first job I could get. I was working at Panera Catering, making $8.50 an hour. And I just right away jumped into applying to every office job that I could get. And I ended up putting in over 100 applications because I was a machine. I was submitting 10 per day every weekday for 1 week, then waiting for interviews to come in. Then I did another run. And, after 3 grueling interviews with my first AV company, I was finally offered a entry-level position there for $12 an hour, and that was like, whoa. It seemed huge after $8.50, and they really had me scared. Even with the 3rd interview, they were tough. But I was in sales support at that first job for 5 years and really loved the company, loved the people. Like Gladys said, it just was awesome for interacting with all kinds of different folks, vendors and consultants and technicians, just different skill sets. And it really is such a, like, AV is wonderful for like building those project management skills because you just right away are thrown into so many different personality styles, just the nature of the work. You could be talking to, like one of the VIPs from a very important client one day, and then working with, this guy in a little AV shop the next. And I just really loved it. And I got really good at a lot of the processes of my position, but especially the bid submittal. Like, I love being able to pull together the team and, keep everything on track to win these huge projects. So because of that skill set, I actually was recruited for a like kind of admin / project management role in the bakery industry. I was feeling like I needed to make a move at this point because unfortunately, I was 5 years in and I was getting stellar reviews. I was winning awards at work. But, unfortunately, my supervisor was being credited for some of my ideas and work meetings. I wasn't being, promoted when I would go for internal positions. I was asked questions like, well, what's wrong with sales support? Meanwhile, I'm seeing people, men who came in at the same time as me being promoted left and right. And I realized I needed to try something else. So I went ahead and took that position when it, came to me for the admin and project management role. And I left AV to go to the bakery industry. So I worked at DecoPack, which is the largest supplier of cake supplies for a while. And it was wild. It was so fun because I was doing a lot of different like customer facing projects, but they also picked up on how good I am with process improvement and lean. So I joined the organizational lean team. And within, just a couple of months of me working there, I was like a part of these huge, like all company wide process improvement things that just, I think what my favorite part about it was, like when I came in, different departments were just butting heads, and people were really not getting along with their coworkers, which I hate to see. And so, like, by just improving a process, you could make working relationships better, and make this place that we have to be in over 8 hours a day, like, not terrible. So that was really awesome to me. And I was there a couple of years. I mean, how can you not love getting to design a like unicorn graduation cake, right? And getting to like coordinate all of these different designers and artists to put that together along with like customer marketing. But I realized that I needed to come back to AV because I just, I wanted to keep growing, and I knew I had a lot to offer. And I am so grateful that one of my really close friends from my first AV job reached out because AVISBL had an opening and was like, hey, I know that you would just kick butt here. You should come over. And it's been a blast. I like started in the project coordination role because I just needed to prove that even though I was managing all of these other projects, that I could manage an AV project. But pretty much from day one, I was managing, project managing, not really coordination. So I kind of just, I built my contacts and, made a lot of great relationships and smoothed out a lot of processes. And now here I am with the title and still doing great work, but getting to see my teams grow and grow. I'm working on bigger projects this year, but also AVISBL has changed their model in that, our enterprise accounts that normally would be housed in one location, and we would maybe complete them with different subcontractors and labor pools across the U.S. With a single central PM for that enterprise. now I'm getting to collaborate with different project managers all over the country. So I have, I believe right now, 10 different PM teams. And I just, I'm making sure that everyone is keeping up the client standards that they've come to know and love, to make sure that everything goes smoothly. But I'm getting to work with some PMs who are just like brand new, and some folks who are really experienced and who have a lot of things to offer me. So I'm just loving life right now, despite the craziness of COVID and, of course, the shipping issues that we're seeing like all over now. It's still really fun.
Yeah, and we can talk about the shipping issues for a second. I don't want to miss this though, and it's something you said is you were being passed over and watching your male colleagues that came in, so you left the industry. Talk for a second about that decision and about kind of what eventually brought you back in to AV.
Sure. It's hard because there's a lot of self-blame that happens when you know that you're doing a good job, but you're not seeing upward movements. I don't know how much you are aware, but like there at most companies in our industry, there's just not as much of a clear career path for people who start in admin roles. And the problem that comes in there is that admin roles are more likely to be held by, women, and therefore we get kind of a mismatch in who gets promoted, because structurally we just don't have. Back in the day, right? We had admins who were pretty happy to be in that role and just improving it for their whole career. And folks weren't necessarily as driven to go into other positions. But now things are changing, and a lot of folks who are going into admin have really good, project management or, lots of different skill sets. And we really should be developing that more. It's just really hard seeing that, when someone comes in as a technician, there's just tons of space for them to move into other areas. But when someone comes in doing admin, a lot of times it's like a feeling of not wanting to rock the boat. Hey, I know that she can do my bids, or he or they can do my bids. Why would I want to promote them into project management where I know that the first 3 projects that they do are going to be rocky? For me, it was like a purchasing role I was going for that I had actually been covering for a few months. But I think a lot of the industry is starting to realize that we have a problem. So that's really good. I know that AVISBL is taking things really seriously now, and they actually have committed to a diversity change within the organization. And I'm actually the chair of the LGBTQ plus ERG group, Open. So I think that we're going to start to see some improvements here, but really it's not enough to just know that there's a problem. And I think that there's a lot of hard truths that need to come into play. When I came back to the industry, after being in bakery, I think some things really became clear for me about how unhealthy the industry could be at times. Because back when I was in AV the first time, it was 5 years, and I started out as this like 22-year-old and just, bright-eyed, bushy-tail, all that. So unfortunately, I was being asked to go to events to basically entertain the male consultants so that the sales reps could kind of pick them off one by one, which is all fine. I had a lot of fun at these events, but the consultants, it was weird. There was vacillation between like, oh, you look like my granddaughter, and hey, are you seeing anyone? So it's a problematic industry. I heard a lot of homophobic insults, a lot of casual racism, and of course, when Trayvon Martin was murdered by I don't even remember his name, but when Trayvon Martin was murdered, a conversation started in my workplace where I just realized that people were really, really comfortable as white males in our industry with assuming that they knew what the life of a young Black kid was like. And I I knew that when I came back to AV, I wanted to start speaking up about these things. Because when I had gone to this other company, they weren't perfect either. They had a lot of issues, you know, but I I had enough of a more diverse leadership there that I could see what it was like to see a woman in leadership. I had more role models, and I just started to learn a lot more about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and started to see how much of a value that would be for the AV industry, because we need all of our voices. If you look at the organizations whose own diverse makeup doesn't match the people they're serving, they're not doing a good job. If you aren't actually, like mixing up your workplace and thinking about all of the different creative ways we have to meet customer needs, you're going to fall behind. And I think that especially within this industry being so fast paced and new needs for communication coming up constantly, we just really have to be ready to make the change and make things better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Narin, obviously, you are at the center of the industry, being at Avixa. Talk for a second about how you got involved and what kind of drew you into the industry.
Absolutely. Let's see, where do I start? Yeah, I mean, like Jess and Gladys here, I know everyone's kind of uses this one, but yeah, I did kind of fall into the AV industry, but I think there is a little bit of context or background there. I've always had something for the video production side. I guess going back to high school and to college, I was really involved with the video production teams and groups and all of that. In college, in George Mason University, I was a part of the Mason Cable Network closed circuit television team, if you will, within the campus. And I kind of helped out with their website and their marketing and all of that, and helped them design their logo, which actually they still use today, interestingly enough. I saw it pop up the other day. And I was like,
was that?
This was back in 2011, so
okay. So
I guess
10
it's
years.
I guess it stood the test of time. Yeah. So, but that kind of helped me define kind of what interest I had in life, because I actually went to college as an engineer, and it was actually I did not enjoy it at all. And somewhere in the middle of my college career, I decided, you know what? If I really like this whole video production thing, I should really get into it. But I kind of stepped back a little bit and was like, you know what, I'll just take general communication, since video production is a part of communication. So I kind of jumped into the communications and public relations side of things. And I ended up, once I graduated, I looked at a few jobs and saw an opening for a association called Infocom International, which is what Avixa was known as at the time. And I was like, I read the job description and I was like, audio visual technology, huh? I know that I knew about AV technology, but I didn't know about AV, if you know what I mean. Like, there's actually this big world kind of associated with the AV industry that's not just the cameras or the display or the sound equipment. It's kind of like a culmination of all of those put together, along with the people who makes these things work, whether they design the things or they make it work, they make it function, they make it special. So I was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting. Applied for a job. It was, interestingly enough, a public relations and communications coordinator, which is the area of study I decided to go in. So I interviewed with Betsy Jaffe, who actually, she was such a big part in me becoming what I am today. I interviewed with her. She hired me, and for several years I worked in the PR and communication side, learning as much as I can. And while doing these, daily PR, like press releases and social media management things, I got to learn about the industry a little more in depth, a lot more in depth, actually. It's really complex. There's a lot of cool people behind the scenes and all of that. And I got to know, there's a lot to learn as well. We had a pretty robust learning team that, internally we kind of work with them too. And I learned a lot of the technical side, which is pretty cool. It really kind of helped build my knowledge in AV more. But, as I engaged with a lot of the people within the industry, within social media, and, my first experience with the Infocom show in 2012, it really opened my eyes of the scale of our industry and how awesome it was, how vibrant and flashy and exciting everything is, and everyone. Everyone's genuinely enthusiastic, the community, really proud to be a part of the audiovisual industry. So, I had a ton of conversations with a lot of people, and I worked on different projects that highlighted the people in our industry, and somewhere along the line, the whole, I heard you were good with video, Narin, side came in. So I got involved in a little more video projects, and eventually it kind of evolved my role. I became a communications manager and incorporated a little bit of video production more into my day-to-day. And eventually, fast forwards 9-ish years, it'll be 10 years as of this coming October. I've, it's become kind of this full video type role, and now I'm part of the content delivery team, and I help produce videos. I, work with the social media team, which is part of the communications team, and develop projects, do things to support the show, which is still a big part of Avixa, the Infocom show, and, working with some campaigns and all of that. So it's a little bit of everything, just trying to highlight the excitement of our industry, and, going out there and meeting some pretty cool people like everyone in this chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And Narin and I I mentioned this at the very beginning. He and I spent a lot of time together, and this is different for Narin because typically he's on the other side of the camera, right? He's the one kind of shooting and editing and stuff like that. So I appreciate you jumping on this side. Gladys, I'm going to start with you in this, and as we kind of wrap up here, just have a conversation with all three of you. Being where you are now, right? You're not in the start of your career. None of you are, right? But for some of those other folks that might be listening or watching, you're getting into that part of your career where you can really kind of see where some of the challenges are, where some of the opportunities are. Jess mentioned, there's still some serious, concerns in the industry, whether that be sexism or racism, or, looking at bringing more diversity into the industry. So Gladys, as you sit here and kind of looking into the next stage of your career, what are areas that you see as opportunities for growth or opportunities for evolution for the industry?
Sure, I think there's a couple places, and I think, in my opinion, it kind of requires some almost external coordination, right? So I'm going to do a quick shout out to Chris Hope from Loop Lab, which, of course, Tim, you are totally aware of, and you know who he is and that organization. But that I'll use as an example. That's a great, actually, amazing opportunity for AV firms to kind of coordinate and co-opt with these types of programs. And I think that's one of the, in my opinion, would be the more successful route to kind of bring newcomers to the scene. And I mean, it also obviously increases diversity, right? So you kind of kill a couple birds with one stone. So that's definitely where I would look and where I would suggest and advise firms to look, organizations such as that. But also just kind of kind of having this understanding that not everybody, because I mean, we're all aware that the AV industry is kind of on the older side and on the whiter side, which, you know, I mean, most corporate America is like that, so, you know, that's fine and all, but we need to change it. But I think if you come in with the understanding that, you know, these marginalized communities won't necessarily come with a specific background in AV, or like they won't check off every box that you're looking for in an employee or to fill a specific role, if you kind of trust that they're just as good as another applicant who, yeah, may not also may not check the boxes, but, you know, if they're white, let's say, and a man, like, they're more likely statistically to get hired. I think if we come in with an understanding that that's not, you know, like, not everybody's gonna be an expert, and trust these people, then yeah, give them a chance, kind of mentor them if you can, if you have the resources. And then also on the employee side, if you are, or such as like myself or like Jess and Narin, like if you see, you know, someone that needs to be mentored or needs to be guided, just, you know, kind of lend a hand if you're able to. Just try to fill that gap, because, you know, like when I was starting off, I definitely felt insecure. I mean, up to this day, I still do, because I'm just, you know, I work with people with so much more experience than myself and much older, but they're able to help me out if I have any questions. And a lot of people along the way who do possess specific experiences, I have gone up and asked them, like, okay, why did we do this? Why did we do this? Like, explain to me, please, if you can. And, you know, if you're lucky, they'll help you, and they'll explain to you in, you know, in a way that's not a condescending way, or that won't kind of be like, oh, just scram type of thing. So I think it's almost like that cliche saying, it takes a village, right, to raise a child. So you kind of have different arms that you can kind of, you reach out to these different methods of being able to help in any way you can.
I would point out something out here. You said, explain to me if you can. If you are in this industry and you are in a position where someone is asking you to explain something to you, if explain something to them, and you don't, get out of the industry, right? I'm sorry. You just, there is so much tribal knowledge. There is so much tribal knowledge in this industry, and yes, there's a lot of great books, and yes, there's a lot of great resources, but if you can't take the time to educate and pass on what you know, because here's the thing, kids, you're gonna die someday. All right, I'm sorry to tell you that we all are going to die, and you're not going to be able to do a damn thing with that knowledge that you have, that you take with you to the grave. So pass it on. Sorry, Jess. What are some areas that you can, areas that we can? I'm really kind of going off the rails here. Where we can, evolve the industry or kind of make it better as you're kind of getting into that next stage of the industry.
Well, I just want to echo what Gladys was saying about giving people a chance. Seriously, I think that, we all had those kids' books that had, and this is what an office worker looks like, and there is still this idea that, I mean, even like if I look at a situation one time with an on-site worker, like they were chastised for not using proper enough language in their emails to people to the clients. And ultimately they were let go. And it's just, I think about those things and how, I guess, snobbish that is almost, that we have to have very scripted, proper language. And it's all based on very, white colonialist language. And I think about how people interact when you are looking at any workplace, like any bustling, even a Starbucks, and hearing people interact with one another. They are making themselves understood, and they are connecting with each other, sometimes in deeper ways than you are going to get when you have this very strict, I have to be proper email. So even in this small area, right, we are throwing aside talent that we could be utilizing because we think it needs to fit inside this box. And, I just 100% want to echo that people who get into AV usually fall into it there's no reason why people can't come to AV from all kinds of backgrounds. And I really want us all to embrace that we need to hire talent that doesn't look anything like the way that we grew up. And we just need to embrace difference and understand that, like, especially, what I found in project management is that you can have a team of people who like seem nothing alike, and they all have different work styles. And it's like the ultimate, indicator of whether a project is going to go well is if they can all collaborate and come up with ways to understand each other. So I think that's huge for me. There's a lot of networking in everything I do. And one thing that I would honestly say to those job seekers and people who are trying to move up within your industry is to please, don't be discouraged by the one gatekeeper or naysayer who is insulting your work, being condescending. This is someone who is gradually going to be pushed out because they are going extinct in the new normal. So I know it's so heartbreaking to be in a situation where your work isn't being valued for what it is, but there are others who see it. So find the ones who see it and, go around those roadblocks, and sooner or later you'll realize they are speed bumps, So just keep trying and find the people who are supporting you, because in this industry, there are a lot of people who are trying to make things better.
All right, Narin, you'll have the last word on this. How do we evolve the industry? How do we make it better?
Yeah, so I'm glad Gladys brought up the Loop Lab. Chris Hope is doing amazing things over there, as well as groups such as Invent You with LaToya Lewis. Really, really awesome pathways for youth to get into our industry. But I agree with what both Gladys and Jess mentioned, is that we need to provide opportunities for fresh perspectives and skill sets and creativity. Creativity is something I think that is going to help define where we go in the future, because there's different faces now and different skill sets and backgrounds that can be brought into AV, and providing the opportunity is the only way we're going to move forward. We're seeing from a creative or content creation side, we're seeing so many kids going out there doing some really creative and cool things with TikTok and YouTube and all of that. Not much of a TikToker myself, but I'm kind of on the sidelines seeing what they're doing out there, and it's cool. What they're doing is what a few years ago is considered technical from a video production perspective, and I think the tools are there for them, and the skill set and creativity and background is there. I think over time, it's something for them to build on, and providing this pathway into the AV industry and opening the eyes to these executives and to these hiring managers for these AV companies to broaden their horizons, to see this is great potential right here. This is a direction that we can go with this type of position, and providing the resources like Chris Hope and LaToya Lewis does to train these kids and essentially the future of our industry to do more technical things like event planning and media production, and the more technical side of AV like integration and stuff like that. I think the background is there, and I think the skills are there. So I think it's just providing that opportunity for and pathway for the youth. All of that's really important, but it also, we need to provide that opportunity. We need to show that this is where you can go with your career. This is a cool opportunity, and you can really do some great things and create some magic with AV. So.
Can I hop on to two things that Narin said? Okay, so first of all, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are amazing. They are the most globally connected generations. Because of technological advances, and because of that, they are the most diverse in their social networks of any generations we've ever seen. And it's so exciting. I honestly think that they are going to do such awesome things. And so, yeah, like, I'm not a TikToker myself, but like, I'm really paying close attention to everything they're doing. And I think that they are going to, help us bring in amazing new ways to communicate that, it's not even on our radar right now. But also I wanted to jump on like what you said about creativity, because I've been learning a lot about psychological safety and the way that psychological safety drives innovation and creates an environment where creative problem solving can occur. So feeling psychologically safe is so important to like all of us in our work, because we do not do our best work unless we get that. Like according to, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're never going to get to that like transcendence and that state of like full self until you really feel completely secure in all of these other levels. And so when you are a company, for example, who is not championing causes for your marginalized employees, who is completely dead silent when there is a structural issue, when there's a police murder, when there is a shooting targeting Asian businesses. If you are silent in all of those times, don't think that you are going to get your employees' best effort, because if you are silent, then that silence is being filled with all of the random garbage that they might have heard. Whether it's from a coworker who's posting something really ill-advised on social media, or whether it's even from outside the workplace. It's just really important, I think, that all of us start being more vocal in our support and, in just systemic change in order to create the psychological safety for all of our employees, because it's not enough to get people into the industry if we aren't creating an environment where they can really shine. That's all I wanted to say.
We have to keep them once we get them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. Gladys, Marroquin, thank you so much. How do people connect with you or Newcomb and Boyd if they are so inclined?
Sure, yeah, we have a website. I haven't memorized it, but I assume it's newcombandboyd.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn. Just to search Gladys Marroquin, and I'll be right there. Right, big hair.
Thank you. Jess Rhoades, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you? Not that they don't know AVISPL, but or AVISPL.
Well, yeah, go ahead and find me on LinkedIn. I go by Jess, and I've got the rainbow hair. If we're going to find each other by hair.
All right, very good. Narin, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Avixa?
Yeah, so you can find out or learn more about Avixa at avixa.org or follow at Avixa on Twitter. For me, I am on Twitter as well, at Narinternet. So it's my first name mixed with internet because I thought it was funny, but it's just whatever.
It is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's not really, but we'll just go with it. It is.
They'll come back. They'll come back.
Yeah, for sure. So it is at NARINTERNET. That is Narinternet.
In 20 years, your kids will think it's cool. So,
I hope so.
Yeah. Congratulations again to all three of you for making the SCN the 9 for 2021. Really, really cool accomplishment and accolade for all three of you. So thank you all so much. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Find this program and a host of others, including 2 more interview segments just like this, where we talk with the rest of the crew for the SCN the 9. Not to be silly, but there are 9 of them. So, at least 2 more of these. So all that and more at avnation.tv, avnation.tv.